The president says he's not making demands, but he definitely has some tough talk for Republicans today in his Road Garden remarks. Listen to this.
They've shut down the government over an ideological crusade to deny affordable health insurance to millions of Americans. In other words, they demanded ransom just for doing their job.
Strong words. And joining me now is Congressman James Lankford. He's the chairman of the House Republican Policy Committee. Welcome to you, Congressman.
Thank you.
He's got a point, hasn't he, the president? Obamacare is law. He's been re-elected on the basis of Obamacare being the main pillar of his first tenure. What is the big problem here? Why can't Republicans just see sense, realize it's law, and move on?
Sure, it's the same reason that we were elected as well. As a lot of folks have talked, the president was elected, so we were elected as well to be able to represent our constituents. Our constituents are asking legitimate questions. You can pull up other speeches from the president where he said, now I'm willing to talk about changes and it's not perfect and there are some issues with it, but then he never actually finishes out and says, and here's what those would be. We're recommending a couple of those. We've actually said in front of the president, okay, here are two issues that are pretty simple. One is members of Congress and the White House are exempted from the rules of Obamacare. We don't think that's right. If the law is so great for the American people, it should also apply to the White House and to Congress. And the second thing is, there are going to be issues. People are going to make mistakes in this very first year of Obamacare, and we don't want them to have penalties come on them because they've made mistakes, because they chose not to get in it. All these questions are coming up as it goes to the first year. We want to say they should be exempted. Same thing that he's already given to businesses.
Right, but
we
all
don't
these
think
things,
that's all that irrational.
but Congress, all these things are just the normal run-of-the-mill negotiation stuff you would have over things like Obamacare. They shouldn't shut down the government. That's the point. I mean, Congress, according to the latest CNN ORC poll, how is Congress handling its job? Approve 10%, disapprove 87%. This is going to be quite shocking, I hope, to you. Brussels sprouts, root canals, colonoscopies and head lice all currently have higher approval ratings than the United States Congress.
Not surprised. Not surprised. I have to tell you,
You're
it was
not
funny.
surprised that head lice and colonoscopies have higher ratings than you?
4 years ago, I was just a normal American citizen in my area in Oklahoma City, and many people came to me and said, people like you, and people like being around you, and you're doing good work here. Why would you want to run for Congress? As soon as you're elected, you're like, you're the problem. So one day you're a normal citizen, the next day you're you people and causing the problems and issues. That's the nature of it. When someone says, what do you think about Congress? You always think about the opposing party. You always think just by nature. Republicans are asked, what do you think about Congress? They think about some Democrat they don't like. Democrats are asked about it. They think about some Republican they don't like. And you just default to that as human nature. And people are frustrated. They have to think about Congress. Our proposal that we put out last time, we think is pretty reasonable in the fact we just said,
the problem
let's go to
is, though, Congressman,
let's get face-to-face and negotiate.
Very, very few people in the Western world agree with you that it's reasonable. So let's go to a question here from
let's ask and see if you should negotiate face-to-face and what people say, because the last proposal we put out is, should the House and the Senate face-to-face sit down and negotiate, get an answer to that, because that's the last thing that we put on the table. Well, and the Senate said no. Let
me go to a question from the audience. Sid Jar, he has a question specifically for you, Congressman.
Okay.
Sid.
Congressman, my name is Sid Jar. I have a question regarding Congress pay. Do you think it's fair that Congress is going to continue to get paid while more than 800,000 government employees are furloughed?
Okay, that's a great question. There are about 17 to 20 or so, depending on how you count it, different government shutdowns that have happened in the last 30 years. Every single time there was a government shutdown, whether it was during the Reagan administration and Tip O'Neill shut down the government, or whether it was in the Clinton administration, it was Newt Gingrich, or now, every one of those federal employees were paid back. All of them were made whole. I would much assume that that would happen as well.
How much are you being paid, say, for this week, Congressman?
Well, I don't break it down. We're actually paid every single month.
Let me help you.
Okay. You broke it down. Good for you.
Yeah. You are paid $3,346 a week. The average work is paid $829. Some of them, we're going to come to them after the break. We'll explain to you why they feel so frustrated being furloughed. But there's a serious point here. I mean, why should the very people who have caused the shutdown continue to be paid when the victims of the shutdown are not being paid?
No, I would assume we're not on that. And we could do the same thing with your salary, Piers. We could break it down a week at a time and see how that balances out to the average American. Every American makes a different amount. We get that in that sense. Members of the Senate are paid every 2 weeks. Members of the House of Representatives are paid every month. I'm already sending a letter back in to say if we're in it, and God forbid we are at the end of this, that my pay would be held just as every other citizen would be that's going to be affected by this. We're actually working through the process to get people rolled out of it. We had 3 different bills today to try to roll people out of it and to be able to solve some of the problems on this. Where we can find common ground, we should pass those aspects and actually get the common ground and keep moving rather than just sit still. And we just believe that when we're at an impasse, since the 1700s, we always go back to the same thing. The House and the Senate both appoint negotiators, negotiate it and do that. We've appointed our negotiators. We'd love to have that with the Senate so we can actually sit down in a room and solve this.
Okay, Congressman Lankford, thank you.